I told you about this new series that I was starting where I was talking about brand and building a brand. And I would say there's probably very few people within our community that wouldn't know who you are. But just for those few, like 5 people that might not know who you are, can you go ahead and introduce yourself, say what it is that you do?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm stoked to be here. My name is Jon Levesque. I am a senior platform evangelist for the Power Platform. And what is a platform evangelist? Just somebody who goes around and spreads the word about the platform. It's a very, it's known as a religious term, evangelist.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. And so whenever people hear that, they're always like, what does that mean? And so it just means I travel around and I spread the word of technology, of the Power Platform. And so
it's quite an American term, I think, as well. I think it's very in Britain, in England, we're quite like, oh, evangelist. Ooh, it is quite a religious connotation with that.
There is.
And I think the first time that I really started to kind of like know your name, and actually it was the same day that I met you, was the same day that I actually was like, oh, okay, now I kind of know who this guy is. And that was in London at, I think it was like a Flow user group. So it was like
the London user group.
Yeah, so you'd come over and I was like, who is this guy? He's an evangelist. Literally, I was like, what does this guy do? And then I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Lucy Bourne or somebody had said to me, it was like, it's Jon Levesque, man. He's cool. I was like, okay. So, but that was one of the things that I was taken by, was kind of like, once I knew your name and I Googled you, I was like, oh my God, this guy is doing awesome things from a social media perspective. To me, going above and beyond what I think a lot of people that work for Microsoft do, and even especially in that sort of role. So I'm curious how you kind of, what pushed you to make your own brand as big as it is, and kind of how did you get into that, if that makes sense?
Okay. Oh, this is good. So first of all, thank you for that compliment, actually. To say that I'm doing it better than the other people in my position, that's a huge compliment.
Not everyone.
No. There's a few who are doing it way better than me. I could even tell you their names.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But that feels good, and I appreciate that. And to get into it was actually kind of an accident. This whole persona of Jon came to be for kind of 2 main reasons. The first one was that when I started on the Power Automate team, they did not have a social media presence. They did not have YouTube. They did not have Twitter. They had none of that. And they had, an official handle, but no one ever used it. And so it was pretty interesting because I was like, well, hey, guys, like, give me all that stuff. Like, let me have that YouTube channel. Let me have that Twitter. I'll do stuff with this. And they were like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, no one is touching this stuff right now. And they're like, yeah, someone has to pay us to touch it. And so my team was like, well, we don't have money for that right now. We're a small startup team. Social media funding is not in the budget. So that was the first thing. Right. The second thing was I went to marketing, who was heavily invested in Power Apps at the time. And I was like, hey, guys, we need to do some marketing for Microsoft Flow. At the time, it was called Microsoft Flow. And now Power Automate. And they're like, yeah, no, we're focused over here on Power Apps. Good luck. And so it was those 2 things that kind of put me in a position where I had to do something, right? My job was community, engagement, and evangelism as the overall umbrella. And so without social media and without marketing support, that was going to be a very difficult job to accomplish.
Absolutely.
And so without being able to use the official channels myself, even a harder job to accomplish. And so it was set upon my decision then to say, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a YouTube channel as a person on the product team. I'm going to make a Twitter as a person on the product team. And I'm just going to do all the things that I was going to do. And so a forcing function, I think, is actually what pushed me into starting all of this.
So there's stuff that comes out from the official Twitter account now. So did it get to a point where it was kind of like, oh my God, we've got all this noise, we've got all this stuff going on. Let's kind of now jump onto that bandwagon, kind of?
Yes. So funny enough, 2.5 years later after starting, the Jon channels all became quite successful, right? Got a lot of followers, got a lot of subscribers. All the traffic was going to those. And so it was pretty funny because not only did they come and say, "Hey, Jon, we would love for you to start using the official channels." No, in fact, they came and said, "Jon, you have to start using the official channels." And I was like, wait a second. Like, wait.
Let's rewind.
We just wasted 2 years of time, right? All this attention that they want now could have been theirs. And so now I run both, right? Now I interface with the social media team and I help them do social media, and Gabriel on my team does a lot of the Twitter. And then also there's an official YouTube, Power Platform YouTube, which shows like Automate It and the online conferences and things landing there. And so now I'm very deeply engaged in both sides, right? The Jon stuff continues. It's kind of become my project now on the side, nights and evenings and weekends and things. I'll do my thing there. And then officially now I'm working on the official handles as well. But yeah, it did come full circle, and they weren't very friendly about it. Actually, they really wanted me to work on their channels after telling me no for so long. It was kind of interesting.
But I think to me that's a common thing in terms of I've had this when I've worked for partners where I don't have nearly as many followers, but I've got a decent number of subscribers, and I'm putting content out. And I was asked, okay, well, can you start writing for our blog? I'm like, well, no. And I mean, if it's like a one blog per month or whatever, but I'm not going to take the content that I would be writing for my own website and give it to someone else. That then when I leave that organization, which I ended up, obviously I'm now independent on my own. If I'd then taken my content that I put my blood, sweat and tears into, and it's not just for anyone that's doing anything in community, if you're doing stuff with Power Automate or Power Apps, you know it's not a quick 5-minute job of writing up a blog post. It's how the hell can I do this? Figuring it out, struggling, banging your head against a wall, and then writing it, and then creating a video. So it's a lot of effort, isn't it? So I think for anyone that is working somewhere that wants to sort of start building up the content and putting it out as themselves, you've got to be kind of strong in that and say, well, this is going to be my, like you said, this is my project. I will do stuff for you in my time when I'm working and being paid. But this is mine. And if I then win the lottery, or I get, I decide to do something different, I've got this that I've done and built off of my back, rather than it just all being left behind, which is what happens, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? We are living in a social world. Now, some employers might not appreciate that, right? And I think that that's a very important thing to probably pre-negotiate if you can. And then if not, have those discussions openly and say like, hey, I'm a content creator, right? I do my own thing. I have this whole path that I'm very interested in. And then, you can be upfront like me and say, I'm very open to do content for you in this time that you pay me as well. And that's worked out well for both of us, right? Because this path that I was on where it had to be the Jon channel, they endorsed that with time and allowed me to do that in a certain time frame because it was necessary, because there was no other machine. But now that there is a separate machine and I'm supposed to use that, then that time goes there, right? And I'm fine with that. I think if you're paying me, that's your time. I'm happy to give you that. But it's been great because I've learned so many skills along the path. I've really figured out like a lot about video production, video editing, filming, things that save me so much time. Each time I do a shoot in a new video, I learn another quick tip that saves me a few seconds, right? And so the more I do it now, the more efficient I become. And it's great because like you were saying, that process is so long. I'll tell you what, now me and Gabriel and like we can cut through, I can film a video and we can edit it and produce it and have it out in like 3 hours. Like our workflow is so quick now, just because it's a machine, right? Once you do it a million times, you get it.
Well, and I think that's the problem, is it? I think people that are just kind of at ground zero and want to start out and start producing content look to those that are like, oh my God, Jon's creating amazing content, or, you know, whoever it is putting out these videos and they're so slick and they're well produced and all the rest of it. But they don't realize, like, and maybe they do if they went all the way back to maybe some of the first videos.
Yeah.
And I know I cringe when I look at some of my older ones. They are just shitty, really shitty. That's the only way I can describe it.
Yep.
But like you said, it's kind of now people that are starting out be like, oh my God, it takes me hours. Creating the video is actually the thing that I could sit and I could record a demo video in 10 minutes, do a tiny bit of editing, top and tail it, you know, and then upload it. And I could do that in about half an hour or an hour. But when I first started doing it, I was like to my husband, I'm going to be in our office for about 6 hours, probably, creating one video. So nice. I think that's saying, don't look to somebody that's creating this high quality content and think, oh, I could never do that. You could, it just is going to take a while, right? Because like you said, it took you a while to get to that point.
Totally. I mean, and that's what I was going to say is like, go look at my first videos. They're trash, right? They're not good. They have lots of views now because they've been around a long time.
Yeah.
But they're not great. There's a good tutorial in there, but the polish and what we're doing today is much different. And so, you know, that's a big thing that I tell people. I think that's a good point and something I'd love to hammer home in this whole path of content creation and personal branding and trying to establish yourself. Don't be afraid to just put it out. Like, I think one of the biggest things that gets in people's way is they don't let good enough be good enough.
Yeah.
And they're always worried about making it perfect. And there's always this next excuse of, oh, I just need a light, or I need a better camera, or I have to have a green screen, or whatever it might be. There's always that next thing that's in the way that gives them the excuse to not do it. And that's fine. But I think that instead of making excuses, just be in the place and say, I'm not ready to do it. Right? Because it's going to be a better journey for you. You won't be beating yourself up about not doing this thing at the same time of creating this cycle that gives you an excuse to not do it. Instead, let good enough be good enough.
Yeah,
I think
agreed.
You just make it and put it out. Don't sit there and obsess about it and over edit it and redo it. Make it and put it out. And you'll be amazed because, like, it might not be your best work. Every piece might not be, you know, a Shakespearean work of art, but you'll be amazed because you might think it's trash, but when you put it out, you're going to get some comments on it that are going to say, oh my God, that was so helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's exactly what I needed at that moment in time. And that's the thing is if what you want to say and what you've come up with the idea of your video content, if it's going to help someone, then yes, put it out. I've sat and I've recorded videos at like 10 o'clock at night and just been like, if you click here, you'll see this. If you do this, you do that. And in my mind, I know that I am there. I'm tired. I'm not giving it my best shot. But I put it out there because I know that ultimately, can you see what I'm doing? Can you see the steps? Yes. Does everyone at home need to sit there and feel like I'm peppy and excited? Not really, no, because the content's decent. It's just we're our own worst critic, aren't we, when we're putting that content out?
Totally. So, and don't get me wrong, that excitement is good, right? I always, even now, the camera's on, I'm more excited, right? There's just this, I try and bring that out because people there is something that they'll connect with in that. But again, don't let that be your stopper. Like you said, if you're tired, but you want to put this out, you want to help someone, you want to get this point across, just do it. I think it's
Have you always done in-person, like video content, like where you've shown your face? Because that was a stopper for me for a long time, whereas just I didn't want to have my face seen on camera. But it seems like you've always done that, or is that?
Yeah, I think from the first moment I started making videos, I put my face on because when I watched tutorials, I liked to see people's faces.
Okay.
It grants a greater connection. So I think of it almost like today there's a phenomenon called Twitch game streaming, right? It's a marvel. It's
believe outrageous. You might be interested in that. So
I am a little bit interested in that, but for those who aren't, it's basically people are on screen and they're playing video games and you're watching them play games and they're interacting with you, chatting. Yeah. And what I found about that is a lot of times people don't follow the game, they follow the person, right? And so I took a bit of that mentality over here into this tech world. And I thought, okay, well, most of the people are going to find my stuff through Google or searching for some technical thing. But what if I could also develop me as part of that? What if I, the person Jon, became an integral piece of that? And I could also get some people to follow me more than the tool, more than the game, right? And so that gaming world that I'm very interested in kind of gave me a bit of insight into creating a persona more than just doing tech tutorials. And so that's been an angle I took on it, and why I've always shown myself, and why I preach to everyone. I've done a couple like YouTube classes with friends, just got together and said, hey, you guys should do this, you should do this, looked at their channels and stuff. And that was one of the first things I told them. Be on screen. People want to see you, right? Technical content is fine, it's good, it's fun, it's useful. But if you're trying to build a brand about you, you gotta be seen.
Yeah. No, I think it's something I've embraced fairly recently, but I agree in terms of, like, I follow Guy in the Cube, even though there's guys in the cube.
Yeah.
And to me, I still will go and see what their latest video is, not because I'm necessarily like really as interested in Power BI as I am other things, but a lot of the content, I just really like them. They've got a great energy. They've got a great vibe. Awesome. And that's exactly that. It's Adam and Patrick, and they're the guys in the cube. So I completely agree. And I've bought into it more and more over the past probably year, I would say, where I've now actually started doing more of these sort of face-to-face videos and trying to connect a little bit more, I think. So
good. And so I've even taken it to the next level recently, where instead of like Teams, this little square in the corner, I've started using OBS and the game streaming software. So now I'm using my game streaming software to do my tutorials. So now I'm an overlay. I sit in front of the tutorial and kind of talk to it. And so I'm even going to the next level now, where now it feels like I'm like your personal trainer, just hanging out in the corner, instead of this little black box where I'm called in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, nice. So it's good that you're learning things and doing new things still at this point.
Totally.
Awesome. So if you could give a piece of advice, and you've already kind of said, just go for it, just do it. But if there's anything that you think would help someone that's kind of either starting out, wants to try and build a brand on Twitter or YouTube, like any sort of good tips that you could give anyone to kind of give them a push.
Yes. Okay. This is what I was waiting for. Okay. So the first one is
no, that's okay. This is what Jon's been waiting for.
This is what I've been waiting for. Because there's a few major points I think that I have found that have really helped me, that I would love to communicate to people. And the first one is be authentic. Like, I know that the social landscape is oftentimes a minefield, and you can't fully be yourself all the time and say all the things you want to say. But as much as you can, do it. Like, be unashamed to be you, because that is what will connect with people the most. People can smell a fake, they can smell a fraud, but also they can see when someone is truly themselves. Yeah. And there's nothing more that attracts another human being than someone fully being themselves, because everybody wants that. Everybody wants to be able to fully express themselves. And so a human being that walks around doing that naturally gets more attention. And so authenticity is number one.
Agreed.
Number two, don't listen to the detractors. Like, you're going to have a million negative voices. There's always going to be someone that's unhappy with what you're saying or what you're doing or what you've wrote or what you put on video. Ignore it. You know why? Because if you pay attention to the one negative voice instead of the 1,000 positive ones, you're never going to make progress. So instead of that, if you're feeling down, if you get a hater, go find some uplifting stuff. Go look at your comments. Go look at how many people have said, this is exactly what I needed. And just know that that one hater, it's their problem and not yours. Anybody who gets haters, it's because they're doing something of importance. If you're not doing anything important, you don't get haters, right? If you're just chilling on the couch, doing your own thing, watching TV after work every night, whatever, not engaging, you're not going to get any haters.
Yeah.
And so if you do, just let them go. Honestly, I have found my problem was I used to engage with them.
It is hard. You're saying like, just don't, it is difficult. I get that one negative comment, and that is what sits with me. It gets into my soul, and I think, I can't believe this person said that. It is difficult. So I agree 100% with that tip, but it is a hard thing to do, isn't it?
It is.
It takes work to get past it.
Yes. And it helps to surround yourself with a group of people who will be honest with you. This is another, the last tip I actually want to give before I move on to this other piece is find your niche. So there's got to be an angle, right? There's a spin. It's your personality, it's your tech, it's what you wear, right? There's something or many things that make you, and don't be afraid to dramatize or up level or energize those things a little bit extra on social media. One person who I feel like does this really excellently is Chloe Condon. I don't know if you know who she is.
I don't, but I need to go and look her up.
You definitely do. She's amazing at social media. She has a very quirky personality, and she plays it so well on social media. Like, she really comes across in that whimsical way that she wants to. And you can see, if you're trying to like figure out, how do I up level my personality angles? How do I find my niche? It's not that you need to copy her niche, but she's a great example of understanding how to understand your niche and really leverage it. Right. And so I would say take a look at her. She's always an inspiration to me in social media. She rocks it. Okay,
good. No, I think those are really good tips. But again, not always easy.
Not easy. Not the second one, especially not easy.
Yeah. And I think you kind of started down this path. And so if I'm putting words in your mouth, apologies. But I think there's always also for that second one, in terms of like people being haters and dealing with that, is make sure you have a team. And when I say team, I don't mean like a business team, but whether it's your husband, whether it's your sister, whether it's your kids or whatever, people that would always be honest with you and ask their opinion on something. My husband is brutally honest. Love him. Love him a bit. But I will say, what do you think of this? And he'll tell me straight up if he thinks there's anything bad about it or negative, or if I've dealt with something in a, maybe I should have dealt with this a little bit differently. So I think have those people around you that will be honest with you and not just be like, oh my God, Jon, you're amazing, because that's, whatever.
It's not just as bad as a hater.
Right?
It is. To have a hater is not good. To have a group of yes men is the term, it's whatever. Yeah. To have a group of them, people who only say yes, who only say you're great, also not good. Exactly. You need people who have your best interests at heart, who will be honest with you, who will say, oh yeah, that like Jon. And I have those, the big Jon, dude, don't engage, right? Like they'll see something on Twitter and I'll get a DM. Do not respond, Jon. Do not respond.
Don't open Twitter today. And it's true. You need that sometimes, don't you? You really do. Because otherwise, the positivity just gets lost to where if that's all you ever hear, then you don't actually know what's the truth. So it's hard. So I want to thank you because it's awesome. I know you're a busy guy and I know it's quite early for you where you are today. And it's a Monday morning as well. Good job.
Hey. This was awesome. It was a pleasure. Honestly, it's a bright spot for me. We have crazy wildfires right now, so I'm locked inside in the smoke. So it's a good presence of mind to be here and instead of worried about all that. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. You are very welcome. Thanks, Jon.
Thank you. Take care.
Hi, I'm Megan Walker. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you learned something from it. If you don't want to miss out on any other content, you can go ahead and click on my face below to subscribe. And if you want to watch the next video, you can do that by clicking over here and go ahead and get started. Thanks again.